Hey YouTube, this is Shit Hits the Fan, Food Storage Part 2. There's also Shit Hits the Fan, Food Storage Part 1. If you are watching this one first, go watch the first one first. Let's get started. So anyway, these split peas, you cook them up. I mean, you could do it like it says on the bag. I use the pressure cooker for it because it just kind of blows them up inside and it's more like a soup. And so when you put, you take a bag of the split peas, you take a can of the tomatoes. I put a little bit of the chicken powder in there with it. It actually says right here on the back of the bag on how to cook these things too. And it actually says, you know, you could put in 6 to 8 cups of water, and that's what I use. I go to the larger amount with it, and it makes it a little bit more soupy. But after the stuff cools down, it's pretty thick and pasty. And every time we've made it and I had leftovers, I actually had to stir in some water the next day to warm it back up. But split peas, I don't know if anybody's ever had split pea and ham soup. It's really good, and you can put ham in there if you've got the meat source and stuff. But over in Nepal, they actually just cook this stuff up with some tomatoes and onions and garlic or whatever, and it's real forgivable. You can put in anything you want, and it's delicious. I mean, I could see how you could eat it long term and not get too awfully sick of it. But what you do is you make the rice like normal rice, and then you pour a spoonful or two of the split pea soup. They call it dal bot, like D-A-L-B-O-T, I think is how you, I don't know, but they pronounce it dal bot, and I think that's lentil and rice. But you can do it with lentil beans, you can do it with split peas, yellow or green, with the tomatoes. You can do pretty much anything you want, but that's all you're doing is you're just taking the split pea soup and you're pouring it over the rice, and together it's delicious. I mean, it's such a good meal. I would imagine you could just take noodles too. Like if you got a good deal on some noodles and you're stockpiling some pasta or something in there, you got some elbow macaroni or whatever you got, you could pour this stuff over the top of it, and it would be delicious at any time. But yeah, it goes a long ways. It makes a lot. I mean, even if I did a half a batch, me and my wife could never get through it. And so it's like you got leftovers, and you're definitely not going to throw them away if you're down to working it. But yeah, spend some time, dial it in, figure it out. Maybe even do some YouTube videos on Dalbot, and it'll probably come up all over the place. There's a lot of places that that do this kind of food and cooking, and then just dial it in. Do it and do it the way you like it. And if you like the one that has the garlic and the olive oil, I mean, I thought the garlic and all the olive oil one was a good deal, because when I do my rice, I like to throw in a tablespoon of butter. But the batch that I did yesterday, I used this, and it's got enough oil in the batch that, you know, you don't need the butter. And when I did the rice, I just did it with the chicken bouillon. I didn't do butter or anything in it, thinking it was going to be terrible, just so I know what it was going to taste like if all I had was water, split peas, a can of tomatoes with some spices, some of the chicken bouillon, and put it together and ate it that way. It was delicious. I don't even know if it needs butter, or if it needs fresh garlic, if you've got garlic in here or spices in here or onions, whatever. I mean, I've done it with fresh, you know, tomatoes and onions and garlic and what have you. Sometimes I throw in a can of corn or maybe some green beans or something, and then just pour it over the top of that on your rice. And it's a very delicious meal, very cost efficient and super easy to make, and it feeds a lot of people. Anyway, I was glad to, the gal that I seen do it actually did it with the yellow split peas. She actually made it in a sun oven outside. That's where I got the idea from, and she did a great job. Anyway, this video is all chopped up and sorry. I'm a master at screwing videos up for sure. So I'll try to get them all spliced together, but it's Dalbot. And I'll actually do a video and I'll probably put it under Dalbot on how to cook it. I don't even know where to look. That's how professional I am. Um, anyway, I'll splice all this together. Okay, not sure what happened right there, but um, anyway, me and my wife could take, and granted it's just the two of us, but if you took a 1 pound bag of rice, you're getting over 2 cups of rice. That's a lot. I mean, that between a pound of rice, a pound of split peas, and a can of this with the split peas done in the pressure cooker, and a couple of spoonfuls of the chicken powder, it makes enough. I mean, you're so sick of eating it. You can eat on that stuff for about a week. So a family of 4 or 5, you could feed for sure, and everybody's full. So I don't know. You got 33 cans of tomatoes. You got about 30 cans of pounds of rice, and you got about 30 pounds of beans. So I would say you'd get at least, a family of 2 or 3, you could probably eat on it 2 or 3 times. So if you had a family of 3, you could probably eat on it for 60 meals. I don't know. Hard to figure out right now in my head, but it's a lot. That's a lot of food for being in 3 buckets. I was going to say this too. Every time you go to the store and you get these little grocery bags, these thin grocery bags, keep them. If for nothing else, they're good little garbage bags to throw stuff away with. But when you're putting your canned goods down in these buckets, you can push these little bags in between the canned goods to keep things from rattling around. It keeps it more stable. So just pack those down in there. But when you put the cans in, you can put a bag of beans down alongside the cans. If there's some dead airspace in there, whatever, you're trying to conserve room. This is a very small bedroom. And, of course, if you're in an apartment or something and you don't have a lot of space, it could mean the difference, to be able to stack high. I'd rather stack it high and take up just that big of a footprint and go up if you need to. But the next best thing about doing this in the buckets, when you get all your stuff out of the buckets, it's exactly what you got. You got another chair, you got a garbage can. I'd get some garbage bags, some 13-gallon garbage bags, and keep them handy in case you ever needed to use it as like a garbage can. But the main thing here is if there's ever an issue and the power's out, power can only be out so long, and then you're going to start running out of water. I'd say if there was ever an issue, or you think there's going to be an issue, if you're in an area that has hurricanes or anything like that, one of the biggest problems people run into is they have no water, and that's to drink or to wash or whatever. But if it was me and that was a problem, first thing I'd do is dump out all the rice and beans, and I'd take this over to my bathtub, and I would fill up all 3 of these, or 4 or 5, or how many you got. Fill them up with water, put your lid back on, stack them again. Now you got 15 gallons of water, right? Because you got 3 buckets. 3 times 5 is 15. So now you got enough water to cook your rice and your beans and everything else. So I don't know. It's probably the best, cheapest system I've come up with so far. Like I said, you've probably got, I don't know, a couple months worth of food for anybody. I mean, you're going to start conserving it, right? You're not going to be just throwing it out. But I think everybody should probably get some of these green split peas and the yellow split peas and try them out, or beans, or figure out how to do your rice now. Don't be trying to read the book on how to swim when the ship's sinking. I mean, get involved and start being a little bit more proactive and try some of these recipes out. But the people over in Nepal, apparently, they call this when they do, I think it's made out of lentils. I seen a video. A gal was doing the yellow split peas, and that's how I tried it. And I like this the split peas, the yellow split peas or the green split peas. I think they taste the same, but she was making them out of lentils, and she says she likes the yellow split peas too. But over in Nepal, these poor people over there, they use the lentils, okay? And they cook up the lentils, they put in, a fresh onion and fresh garlic, and of course it tastes better than just one can of the stewed tomatoes or petite diced tomatoes. But if this is all you've got, I mean, I made a batch of this yesterday, and it's a huge, huge batch. I would imagine you could feed 8 people on it. That's how big the batch was. And it costs you, a half pound, or these bags of rice is $1, and it's 2 pounds. So you're using, 50 cents worth of rice, $1.19, and those cans of tomatoes I got on sale for 49 cents. So, and granted, it's on a case lot, sale, and it is a sale. But I think under normal circumstances, it's only 79 cents a can. So, I mean, what are you into it? You're feeding eight people. There's probably at least 8 servings there at a minimum, and it costs you $2. So it's cheap. It's probably the cheapest way around it. Will you get sick of it if you ate it for 2 months? Maybe, but I think you'd be glad you had it. Maybe you could substitute or whatever. But the people over in Nepal, apparently, they eat this 2 to 3 times a day. And I think that's the only way they're actually surviving in some of them third world countries is, they're using the lentil beans or the split peas as their protein source and a lot of rice. And so as long as you've got water, you've got rice, and you got beans and some way to season it, the tomatoes, you get some vitamin C and stuff out of the tomatoes, and there's probably some other good stuff in there other than the taste, but and then again, you've got 3 buckets of water. If you can afford 4 or 5, or if you want to do 5 or 6 or 20 of them buckets, the mice can't get to your beans and rice. Everything stays dry. That's another thing too I wanted to say. I had some rice and beans in my van in a bucket in the back when I moved. And so that's how I know how long this stuff's been in there. And it was in a plastic bucket. There was 2 buckets that were nested together, and I had some nuts and bolts in the bottom of one of them, and then I had some rice and beans and some stuff in the back of the van. Anyway, 6 years old. That stuff sat out in Utah weather, getting froze every day, every winter, every day, and every hot summer. I never took it out. I found this stuff and I thought, oh my gosh, it still looked okay. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what it tastes like. And I was a little apprehensive about it, seeing if it would even cook up right, because it was 6 years old and had been outside all this time. And yeah, I cooked it up. I could not taste the difference. So when it comes to things like the rice and the beans, it's going to be pretty tough to beat, even if it's the best long-term food storage you can do. And if you keep it in a bucket to where mice can't get to it, or rats, or whatever, it's conveniently stackable. And not to mention, if shit hit the fan, you dump them buckets out on your bed and you got all your gear somewhere else. You can use them buckets for water. And if you have a water filter or anything like that, even if you had to use them buckets and put them out on the corner of your house or wherever you're, if you got a carport or anything like that, or collecting rainwater and it's just coming down out of a downspout, you could collect it in these buckets and then take it in and filter it. And then you got drinkable water. So something to consider. Probably the best thing I found so far if you're in a pinch. Those buckets, I think, are $4 a piece or something over at the hardware store. And they've got a food grade rating on the bottom of it. It shows that triangle thing with the 2. I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever, but I think they are food grade. If you wanted to keep some stuff in it, I mean, you check the buckets you're getting from wherever. I don't know if some of them ones from like Home Depot that are orange or Lowe's that are dark blue are or whatever, but if you're going to keep it in the bags and it's life or death, I don't know if you care. But those lids, them easy off lids, were like $2.99 a piece. So I think you're into them about $7 a bucket if you do it that way. But man, I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier than having to buy a tool to get them lids off and carrying around a mallet, to beat them back on there with. Anyway, something to consider. That's it for this video. Now I got to clean up this mess and put it all back in the buckets. Anyway, always be aware of your surroundings. Always remember where you came from. Always remember how to get back there. Till next time, we'll see you.